Ohio is a land of restless spirits, ancient mysteries, and shadows that never quite fade with the setting sun. Some say that the state is beautiful during the day with its quiet farmlands, bustling cities, and winding roads, but at night, when the moonlight drapes across the rooftops and the forests grow still, something else awakens. Beneath the surface of Ohio's history lies a darker truth, one built on tragedy, whispers, and places where the dead do not rest quietly. In every corner of the state, there are stories that refuse to be forgotten. Stories of prisons where inmates still pace their cells long after execution, hotels where guests hear footsteps outside their doors but find no one there, tunnels where the echo of phantom trains can be heard in the dead of night, and theaters where long-departed performers continue their final act for an audience that cannot be seen. Ohio's haunted places are not just old bricks and stone walls. They are breathing, pulsing reminders of the past, holding within them echoes of sorrow, anger, and fear. Each location is a chapter in a ghost story that never ends, a story where the voices of the departed mix with the living, blurring the line between this world and the next. Visitors report strange chills as if unseen hands brush against them. They hear whispers in the corners of abandoned hallways. They feel a heavy presence that makes their hearts pound and their breath catch, as if something is watching, waiting, reaching from the shadows. And when the lights flicker, when a door closes on its own, or when a faint cry drifts through the air, many realize that Ohio's haunted reputation is not just a legend. What makes Ohio truly terrifying is not just its collection of haunted spots, but the fact that these places remain active. Spirits here seem tied to the land, chained to the rooms, stages, tunnels, and bridges they once knew. They appear again and again, reminding everyone who dares to step inside that death does not always bring silence. So tonight, prepare yourself. We are about to wander through some of the most haunted places in Ohio, from prisons where darkness still rules, to hotels with restless spirits, to theaters echoing with phantom performances. These are not simply old buildings. These are gateways to another world, where history bleeds into the present, and where ghosts are still waiting for someone brave enough to listen. If you're ready, let's step together into the shadows of Ohio's most haunted places, but remember, once you enter, it might be harder than you think to leave. Haunted place number 1. The Ohio State Reformatory, Mansfield, Ohio. The Ohio State Reformatory is not just another abandoned prison with crumbling walls and rusted bars. It is a fortress of sorrow, a towering monument to despair, and one of the most haunted places in the United States. Rising above Mansfield like a Gothic castle, with stone spires and dark corridors, it has long been a place where pain was built into the very foundations, where hopelessness was absorbed into the concrete, and where the screams of inmates still seem to echo against the cold stone walls. Construction of the reformatory began in the late 1800s, and its original purpose was noble. It was designed to reform young, non-violent offenders, giving them a second chance at life. But as the decades passed, it became less a place of hope and more a nightmare made real. Overcrowding, abuse, disease, and violence plagued the prison. By the mid-20th century, the reformatory's reputation had shifted from one of opportunity to one of torment. Men were beaten, locked in solitary cells for days, and many never walked out alive. Walking through its decaying corridors today, you can still feel that heavy atmosphere pressing in on you. Visitors often report hearing chains dragging along the concrete floors, even though no one is there. Doors slam with terrifying force, even in areas with no draft. Disembodied voices whisper from empty cells, their words impossible to understand but chilling in their persistence. Some have heard desperate pleas for help, others low growls that sound less human and more demonic. One of the most infamous areas is the solitary confinement block, known as the Hole. These cells were tiny, pitch black, and suffocating. Inmates were thrown in here as punishment, often for weeks. Many lost their sanity, scratching at the walls, screaming until their voices gave out. Some died in complete darkness. People who step into these cells today say the air is so thick with despair it becomes hard to breathe. Others emerge shaking, claiming that unseen hands grabbed them in the dark, or that a cold presence pressed against their chest as if trying to suffocate them. Another terrifying hotspot is the East Cell Block, one of the largest freestanding steel cell blocks in the world. Rows upon rows of rusting cages stretch upward, each one once filled with men who endured daily violence, despair, and the constant threat of death. Here, shadowy figures have been seen darting between cells. Visitors often catch glimpses of a man standing at the end of the block, only for him to vanish when approached. Some hear the clanging of bars or the rattling of cell doors, even though the entire block is now abandoned. The reformatory is also known for its chapel, where many inmates prayed for redemption. Yet even this holy space has become tainted. People describe sudden cold spots, the sound of hymns sung by ghostly voices, and the feeling of being watched by dozens of unseen eyes. A few have even claimed to see an apparition of a priest standing at the altar, his face pale and sorrowful, only to dissolve into thin air. And then there are the stories of the warden's quarters, where tragedy struck in 1950. Warden Glatka's wife, Helen, was killed when a handgun accidentally discharged in the house. Some say it was a tragic accident, others whisper it may have been murder. To this day, her spirit is said to remain, drifting through the quarters in a long dress. Visitors catch the faint smell of roses, her favorite perfume lingering in the air. But sometimes her apparition is not peaceful. People report seeing her face twisted in anguish, a reminder of her violent and sudden death. Perhaps the most terrifying encounters come from those who dare to visit after dark. Paranormal investigators and thrill seekers alike have documented the same terrifying phenomena: shadows crossing doorways, loud bangs echoing through the halls, footsteps following them even though they are completely alone. In the dead of night, the reformatory transforms into a nightmare. It is not just haunted, it is alive with restless energy, as though the spirits here refuse to let go of their suffering. Some say the building itself holds the energy of everyone who ever lived and died inside. With more than 200 deaths recorded within its walls, murders, suicides, disease, and executions, it is no wonder the reformatory has become a hotspot for supernatural activity. The walls are soaked with the cries of the damned. Every brick, every rusted bar, seems to hum with anguish. And for those who doubt, the reformatory offers something even more chilling: physical interactions. Visitors have been scratched by invisible claws, shoved to the ground by unseen hands, or felt icy breath against their necks as whispers crawl into their ears. One visitor described it best: "It's not that the place is haunted by a ghost or two. The entire prison is haunted. The building itself feels alive." The Ohio State Reformatory is a place where time seems to stand still, where the past bleeds into the present, and where shadows cling to every corner. Walking its halls is like stepping into a world where the living and the dead coexist uneasily, where memories of suffering never fade, and where spirits remain bound to the place that stole their freedom, their hope, and in many cases, their lives. So when you visit Mansfield, if you are brave enough to step inside the towering gates of the Ohio State Reformatory, remember this: every sound, every whisper, every shadow may not just be your imagination. In this prison, the spirits are waiting. And once you feel their cold breath against your neck, you will understand why this is one of the most haunted places in Ohio. Number 2, The Ridges, Athens, Ohio. The Ridges, once known as the Athens Lunatic Asylum, is one of the darkest and most haunted places in Ohio. Built in the late 1800s, it was originally designed to treat the mentally ill, but over the years it became a house of torment, overcrowded, understaffed, and filled with suffering. Thousands of patients passed through its doors, and many never left, their bodies buried in unmarked graves scattered across the asylum grounds. The air still carries the heavy silence of forgotten souls, and the energy that lingers here is thick with despair. Inside the crumbling hallways, people hear screams echoing down the corridors, even when no one is there. Doors slam violently, footsteps follow visitors, and the shadows seem to shift and move as if alive. Paranormal investigators describe sudden drops in temperature, whispers that seem to come from just behind their shoulders, and strange lights that float through the wards. Some visitors claim to feel hands brushing against them, icy cold, invisible, yet undeniably real. The most infamous room is where a woman named Margaret Schilling died in 1978. Her body was discovered weeks later, and the outline of her corpse permanently stained the floor. To this day, the stain remains no matter how many times the floor has been cleaned or scrubbed. People who enter that room describe overwhelming sadness, nausea, and the sensation of being watched. Many say Margaret's spirit never left, her energy forever tied to the spot where her life ended so tragically. The old treatment rooms are especially terrifying. Electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and cruel methods of restraint were all carried out within these walls. The screams of patients echo through time, and people who step into those rooms swear they can still hear the cries of agony, the rattling of chains, and the desperate pleas of those who were never set free. Outside, the asylum cemeteries add to its haunted legend. Thousands of graves, most marked only with numbers, stretch across the fields. The nameless dead lie beneath the soil, their identities erased, their stories forgotten. Locals claim to see ghostly figures wandering among the headstones at night, some glowing faintly in the moonlight, others moving silently through the mist. The Ridges is more than haunted, it is cursed by its own history. The lives lost here, the pain endured, and the darkness of its practices have soaked into the very foundation. Visitors leave with heavy hearts, some claiming that spirits followed them home, clinging to them long after they left the asylum grounds. This place stands as a reminder of suffering, of fear, and of lives silenced too soon. To walk its halls is to feel the weight of thousands of restless souls pressing down on you, whispering their stories in voices you cannot ignore. The Ridges is not just haunted, it is alive with the memories of pain and despair, and it waits for anyone brave enough to step inside. Number 3. Franklin Castle, Cleveland, Ohio. Franklin Castle is often called the most haunted house in Ohio, and once you step near its Gothic facade you begin to understand why. Built in 1865 by Hannes Tiedemann, the mansion is a towering structure filled with winding staircases, hidden passages, and secrets that seem to echo from every corner. At first glance it looks like a masterpiece of Victorian architecture, but beneath the beauty lies a history of tragedy, whispers of murder, and countless tales of restless spirits. The Tiedemann family, who first lived there, suffered unimaginable loss. Hannes and his wife lost several of their children within the walls of the home, each death adding another layer of sorrow and darkness. People believed that grief alone could not explain so much tragedy, and rumors began to spread that there was something more sinister at work. Some whispered that Hannes himself had a cruel hand in the deaths, and others believed the house was cursed long before he stepped inside. Visitors today speak of phantom children running through the halls. Their laughter is faint, often turning into cries that chill the blood. Guests report toys moving on their own, doors creaking open as if pushed by small unseen hands, and shadows darting across staircases too quickly to be human. In the still of night, the sound of footsteps echoes throughout the mansion even though no one is there, as if the house remembers every life that walked its halls and replays their presence for eternity. Franklin Castle is also infamous for its hidden rooms and secret passageways. During renovations, workers discovered concealed chambers and doors behind walls, some leading to nowhere, others hiding what looked like storage for skeletons of the past. One legend claims that these rooms were used to store the bodies of victims, that Hannes or someone else in the house had darker intentions than anyone dared to speak of. Paranormal investigators who enter these spaces describe feelings of suffocation, dread, and an overwhelming urge to flee. The apparition most often seen is that of a woman dressed in black. She is said to appear at windows, looking out as though waiting for someone to return. Witnesses have seen her drift across rooms, fading into walls or vanishing entirely when approached. Some believe she is Mrs. Tiedemann herself, still mourning the loss of her children, trapped forever in the halls that once echoed with her family's cries. The sounds within Franklin Castle are just as terrifying as the apparitions. Heavy footsteps follow people down long corridors, organ music has been reported playing though there is no organ in the home, and cold spots appear suddenly, surrounding visitors with icy air that feels like someone has stepped close beside them. Lights flicker, voices whisper names, and in some cases, people claim to have been pushed by unseen hands while walking up the narrow staircases. Every wall of Franklin Castle seems to breathe with its past. Some say the spirits are angry, others believe they are simply lost and replaying their suffering again and again. Whatever the truth may be, Franklin Castle stands as a monument of mystery, sorrow, and the supernatural. The house refuses to let its stories die, and those who dare enter often leave with experiences that cannot be explained. Franklin Castle is not just a house, it is a labyrinth of the dead, a place where every room tells a story, every shadow hides a presence, and every corner holds a secret. To step inside is to step into a world where the veil between the living and the dead is paper thin, and the spirits of Cleveland's most haunted mansion are always waiting. Number 4. Moonville Tunnel, MacArthur, Ohio. Deep in the woods of southeastern Ohio, hidden away in Vinton County, lies the infamous Moonville Tunnel. At first glance, It looks like nothing more than an abandoned railway tunnel carved into the rock, covered in moss and graffiti, but once you step closer, you begin to feel it, the heavy silence of the forest, the unnatural chill in the air, the sensation that you are being watched from the darkness beyond the archway. This tunnel is one of Ohio's most legendary haunted places, and the stories surrounding it have terrified explorers, hikers, and ghost hunters for decades. The town of Moonville itself is long gone. It was once a tiny mining settlement in the 1850s, a place where people lived hard lives filled with poverty, accidents, and tragedy. Today, only remnants remain, the most famous being this tunnel. With the train line gone and the village erased by time, the tunnel stands alone as a gateway to the past, a place where the souls of those who suffered and died seem to linger in eternal unrest. The most famous ghost here is known as the Headless Brakeman. His story is one of the most chilling. He is said to have been a railroad worker who lost his life on the tracks near the tunnel, his body crushed beneath the weight of a train. Ever since, his spirit has wandered, searching for his head, his lantern glowing in the darkness as he staggers along the line. People who dare visit the tunnel at night claim to see an eerie ball of light floating down the tracks, swaying like a lantern held by invisible hands, vanishing only when it is dangerously close. Some swear they have seen the outline of a man with no head, raising a lantern high before fading into the night. But the brakeman is not the only soul said to linger. There are stories of a young woman who died in the 1800s when she was struck by a train near the tunnel. Her apparition is described as a pale figure in white, her face blurred, her voice a wail that echoes through the stone walls. Witnesses claim they have heard her scream just before a ghostly train roars through the tunnel, even though the line has been abandoned for over a century. The sound of steel wheels grinding on tracks, the shriek of a whistle, and the rush of wind are all reported by those who stand in the tunnel at night. Then, in an instant, silence falls, leaving only the pounding of the victim's heart. Paranormal investigators who have visited Moonville Tunnel often describe it as one of the most active sites they have ever explored. Cold spots appear without warning, shadows move against the tunnel walls, and disembodied voices whisper from the darkness. One investigator recalled setting up recording equipment only to capture the chilling words, "Leave now," spoken in a low growl. Others have left with scratches across their arms, sudden nosebleeds, or feelings of nausea that vanish the moment they step away from the tunnel's mouth. Legends say that the tunnel itself acts like a portal, a place where the veil between the living and the dead is thin. Locals tell of strange lights deep in the woods, ghostly figures standing at the entrance before vanishing, and even the sound of footsteps crunching on gravel when no one is there. For those brave enough to enter, it is said that the tunnel never feels truly empty. You may walk through its cool, damp interior, but you are never alone. By day, the Moonville Tunnel feels eerie but manageable, a relic of the past where curious hikers snap photos and admire its haunted reputation. But at night, when the forest is silent and the only sound is the wind rustling the trees, the tunnel transforms into something else entirely. A black hole in the wilderness, a place where time seems to warp and where spirits of the past are free to walk. Many who enter after dark swear they will never return, the experience too intense, too real, too terrifying to endure twice. The Moonville Tunnel is more than an abandoned landmark. It is a graveyard carved in stone, a reminder of lives lost and tragedies never forgotten. Whether it is the headless brakeman searching endlessly for his lantern, the ghostly train that roars through the night, or the woman in white who screams in eternal despair, the spirits of Moonville linger, making this tunnel one of Ohio's most feared and fascinating haunted places. Number 5. The Golden Lamb Inn, Lebanon, Ohio. The Golden Lamb Inn is the oldest operating hotel in Ohio, and its walls have absorbed more than 200 years of history, sorrow, and mystery. Established in 1803, it has welcomed presidents, generals, writers, and countless travelers, yet many believe that not all of its guests ever truly checked out. The air inside feels heavy, as though the past has never loosened its grip, and the long hallways echo with footsteps that cannot be explained. One of the most famous spirits said to remain here is that of Sarah Stubbs, the 12-year-old daughter of a congressman who died in the mid-1800s. Guests report hearing the sound of small footsteps racing down the hallway when no children are present. Some describe hearing soft laughter in the dead of night, a child's giggle echoing just beyond their door, only to find the corridor empty when they open it. Toys left in certain rooms have been known to move on their own, dolls appear in different places than they were left, and balls roll across the floor with no visible cause. Another spirit tied to the inn is Charles R. Sherman, father of General William Tecumseh Sherman, who died suddenly while staying here in 1829. Visitors sleeping in his former room report feelings of dread pressing down on them, as though an unseen presence shares their bed. Some have described waking to find the room unnaturally cold, blankets pulled away, or a shadowy figure watching from the corner, silent and unblinking, until it fades back into the darkness. The grand staircase of the inn is notorious, and many claim to see a woman in an old-fashioned dress gliding down the steps before vanishing halfway. Others have glimpsed dark silhouettes standing motionless at the top of the stairs, only to dissolve as they approach. In the dining room, the sound of muffled conversations has been reported when no one is there, the clinking of glasses and scraping of chairs disturbing the silence. Plates sometimes rattle by themselves, and silverware shifts across the tables as though moved by unseen hands. The bedrooms hold their own chilling experiences. Guests awaken in the middle of the night to find their blankets pulled down, or to feel a cold hand brushing their skin. Some have even claimed to see an apparition at the foot of their bed, staring without a word, before vanishing into thin air. A few terrified visitors have left the inn in the middle of the night, unable to remain any longer. The Golden Lamb does not hide from its haunted reputation. The walls are lined with portraits of historical figures, and the staff openly share the stories of strange occurrences. The inn has become both a historic treasure and a paranormal hotspot, where the past seems alive and the veil between the living and the dead feels dangerously thin. For every guest who leaves with a fond memory, another leaves with a story of a chilling encounter. And for those who dare to stay the night, the question remains, will you wake to silence, or will the ghosts of the Golden Lamb find you? Number 6. Licking County Historic Jail, Newark, Ohio. The Licking County Historic Jail stands as one of the most unsettling landmarks in Ohio, its towering stone walls and barred windows holding within them decades of suffering and despair. Built in 1889, this fortress-like structure once housed some of the most violent criminals in the state, and though the cells have long been emptied, many believe the spirits of its former inmates remain trapped within. Walking past its cold iron gates, you can almost feel the weight of countless untold stories pressing against you, a heaviness that lingers in the air like a shadow that never leaves. Inside, the jail is a maze of narrow hallways, rusted bars, and peeling paint. The echoes of footsteps bounce off the stone, often leaving visitors unsure whether the sound is their own, or something else following just behind them. The cells themselves are dark and oppressive, with stains on the walls that seem to whisper of violence and desperation. People who tour the jail describe sudden drops in temperature, the sensation of unseen hands brushing against their skin, and disembodied voices calling out their names in hushed tones. One of the most infamous spirits said to roam the jail is that of Carl Etherington, a young Prohibition officer lynched by a mob in 1931 after he killed a local bootlegger. It is said that his spirit never found peace, and many visitors claim to hear his voice echoing through the corridors, pleading for help, or hear the rattling of chains as if someone is still being dragged to their fate. His cell is a hotspot for activity, where doors slam shut on their own, and some have seen his figure lingering in the shadows, a fleeting image of torment. Others believe the spirits of unnamed inmates remain locked within the walls, doomed to relive their pain for eternity. Shouts and moans are often reported late at night, and dark shadows move across the walls when no light source can explain them. Some visitors have described hearing the sound of keys jingling, as though a phantom guard still walks his rounds. In the solitary confinement cells, the feeling of dread is overwhelming, and many who step inside claim to feel watched by something malevolent, something that feeds on fear. Paranormal investigators who have spent the night within the jail have captured chilling evidence, including unexplained voices caught on recorders, shadow figures darting past cameras, and the slamming of heavy cell doors when no one was near them. Some even claim that the longer you stay inside, the stronger the energy becomes, as if the building itself is alive, pulsing with the anger and sorrow of those who once suffered within its walls. Today, the jail stands as both a historic site and a chilling reminder of the darker side of Ohio's past. For those who dare to step inside, it offers more than just a history lesson, it offers a confrontation with the restless dead. The Licking County Historic Jail is a place where the line between past and present blurs, where each corner may hold a shadow, and where the question remains, when the cell door closes behind you, will you be able to leave, or will you become another ghost within its stone walls? Number 7. The Buxton Inn, Granville, Ohio. The Buxton Inn stands in the quiet town of Granville, but its history is anything but peaceful. Built in 1812, it is the oldest continuously operating inn in Ohio, and with over 2 centuries of stories, tragedy, and death inside its walls, it has become one of the most haunted places in the state. From the outside, the inn looks charming with its old brick walls and welcoming porches, but the moment you step inside, a chill settles over you, a sense that you are not entirely alone. Guests have reported countless encounters with the spirits that are said to linger in the inn. One of the most famous ghosts is that of Major Buxton himself, one of the original owners of the inn. His figure is often seen wandering the hallways, still carrying himself with the stern dignity of a military man. People who encounter him describe a tall, shadowy presence that moves silently through the rooms, often vanishing before their eyes, leaving behind only the faint scent of tobacco. Another spirit tied to the Buxton Inn is that of the Lady in Blue, believed to be a former innkeeper named Ethel, who died in the building. She is often seen wearing a blue dress, and many guests say she appears at the foot of their bed late at night, watching them with a calm but unsettling gaze. Others have seen her figure gliding down the staircases, her dress flowing as if caught in an invisible breeze. Her presence is so well known that some visitors even check into the inn specifically hoping to see her, though those who do often leave shaken. The inn also has a history of being connected to the Underground Railroad, and many believe that the spirits of those who once passed through still linger. In the basement, visitors have heard whispers in the dark, footsteps pacing back and forth, and the sound of doors creaking when no one is near. Some describe the overwhelming feeling of sorrow, as though the walls still hold the memory of those who sought refuge there. Rooms within the inn are said to have their own unique energy. Room 9 is notorious for ghostly activity, with guests reporting icy cold spots, lights flickering on their own, and even the feeling of someone sitting on the edge of the bed while they try to sleep. Room 7 is another hotspot, where shadows move across the walls, and the faint sound of a woman humming can be heard. Employees of the inn admit that they often feel watched when working alone, and many refuse to go into certain parts of the building after dark. Paranormal investigators have spent countless nights in the Buxton Inn and captured chilling evidence. Voices caught on recorders, doors slamming without explanation, and even apparitions appearing in photographs when no one was visible at the time. Some describe hearing their name whispered in their ear, while others claim they were touched by unseen hands, a brush against their shoulder, or the feeling of fingers gripping their arm. Despite its haunted reputation, the Buxton Inn remains a popular destination. Visitors come from all over, drawn by its history and the chance of encountering one of its many spirits. But those who stay overnight often find that the inn offers more than just a cozy bed and breakfast. It offers a journey into the past, where the living and the dead share the same space, where shadows linger in the corners, and where each creak of the floorboards may be more than just the sound of an old building. The Buxton Inn is more than a historic landmark. It is a place where the past refuses to fade, where the dead are said to walk among the living, and where every guest who checks in must wonder who else is sharing their room. Number 8. Hotel Lafayette, Marietta, Ohio. The Hotel Lafayette in Marietta sits on the banks of the Ohio River, a grand and elegant building that has stood for more than a century, welcoming travelers from near and far. Built in 1918, the hotel carries with it a history steeped in both glamour and tragedy, and over the years, it has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted places in the state. From the outside, it appears as a beautiful riverside retreat, but those who know its history speak of the restless spirits said to linger within its halls, forever tied to the building by untimely deaths, sorrow, and unfinished stories. Guests who check into the hotel often describe a strange feeling that settles over them as soon as they walk through the grand lobby. The air feels heavy, the kind of weight that presses on your chest, and even though the staff are warm and welcoming, there is an underlying tension, a whisper that something unseen is watching. The hallways are long and dimly lit, lined with historic furnishings and portraits, and many guests swear that the eyes of the portraits follow them as they walk past, as though the walls themselves are alive. One of the most frequently reported spirits is that of a woman dressed in early 20th century clothing. She is seen wandering the hallways late at night, her footsteps echoing across the old wooden floors. Some believe she was a guest who died tragically during her stay, while others claim she was once part of the staff who dedicated her life to the hotel and simply never left. Those who encounter her say she is not threatening, but her sudden appearance, silent and pale, leaves them shaken and unable to sleep for the rest of the night. The third floor of the hotel is considered one of the most haunted areas. Guests staying there report strange occurrences, such as objects moving on their own, lights flickering, and the sound of children laughing in the distance, even though no children are present. Some have been woken in the middle of the night by the sound of someone knocking on their door, only to open it and find the hallway empty and silent. Others describe the sensation of someone sitting on their bed, pressing down the mattress, only for the weight to suddenly vanish as quickly as it appeared. The hotel also has a famous bar and lounge, where spirits of a different kind are served, but even there the ghosts make their presence known. Patrons have reported glasses sliding across tables, chairs moving slightly as though pulled by unseen hands, and the faint sound of whispers in their ear when no one is near. Bartenders who close late at night often hear footsteps circling the room, the soft clink of glassware, and the unmistakable feeling that they are not alone. The elevators in the Hotel Lafayette are another source of mystery. Many guests say the elevators will move on their own, stopping on floors with no one waiting, or opening and closing repeatedly as though guided by an invisible passenger. On more than one occasion, guests have stepped into the elevator, only to feel a sudden chill and an overwhelming sense of dread, as if they are standing shoulder to shoulder with a presence they cannot see. Some believe that the spirits of the Hotel Lafayette are tied not only to the building itself, but also to the river it overlooks. The Ohio River has been the site of countless tragedies over the centuries, from floods to accidents, and many say that the restless souls from the river find their way to the hotel, drawn to its energy. Guests who stay in rooms facing the river often describe seeing shadowy figures outside their windows, drifting along the banks, only to vanish into the mist. Paranormal investigators who have spent the night in the hotel have captured chilling evidence, including disembodied voices, sudden temperature drops, and even apparitions caught on camera. Some claim that the hotel is a portal of sorts, a place where the veil between the living and the dead is thin, and where energies from the past seep into the present. Yet, despite its reputation, the Hotel Lafayette remains a popular destination, drawing visitors who come not just for its historic beauty, but for the chance to experience its hauntings firsthand. For some, the spirits are simply part of the charm, a reminder that history is alive within its walls. But for others, the nights are long, filled with whispers in the dark, footsteps in empty corridors, and the unsettling knowledge that they are never truly alone. The Hotel Lafayette is more than a historic landmark. It is a place where the past lingers in every corner, where spirits walk beside the living, and where every creak of the floor and flicker of the light may be more than just the quirks of an old building. For those who stay there, the question is not whether the hotel is haunted, but whether they are brave enough to face whatever waits for them in the night. Number 9. Kings Island Amusement Park, Mason, Ohio. Kings Island may be known today as one of Ohio's most thrilling amusement parks, with roller coasters that scream into the sky and families crowding the midway, but beneath the laughter and bright lights, there is a much darker history that refuses to stay buried. The land itself, long before it became a place of fun, was once farmland, and before that, it carried stories of tragedy and unsettled spirits. When the park opened in 1972, it was meant to bring joy, yet from the beginning, whispers began of shadows, of strange happenings, and of ghostly figures that moved through the grounds long after closing time. The most famous of these spirits is a young girl, known simply as Tram Girl. She is said to appear near the tram station, dressed in a light blue dress, her hair tied with a ribbon, always seen smiling faintly as though waiting for someone. Guests and employees have reported seeing her in the early morning or late at night, and when approached, she vanishes into thin air. Some believe she was a child who lived on the farmland before the park was built. Others say she died in a tragic accident on the grounds, and now she lingers, forever tied to the place that rose above her resting spot. Then there is the spirit of Tower Johnny. His story is one of the most chilling. In 1983, a young man tried to climb the Eiffel Tower replica inside the park, a daring act that ended in tragedy when he fell to his death. Since then, his spirit has been seen by staff and guests, darting through the tower's shadow, appearing at the elevator, or even standing high above on the tower itself, only to vanish when looked at too closely. Security guards speak of hearing footsteps climbing the tower stairs at night, even when no one is there, the echo of Johnny's last moments repeating again and again. The rides themselves are not free from hauntings. Guests on the Racer, one of the park's oldest roller coasters, often report hearing strange voices while waiting in line, whispers that float through the air, calling their name or laughing softly, even when no one around them is speaking. During late-night maintenance, workers have claimed to see shadow figures darting across the tracks, disappearing as soon as the lights turn on. Some describe feeling icy hands brush against their skin as they strap themselves into the coaster, a touch that vanishes as quickly as it comes. Another haunted area is the International Restaurant, a grand dining spot above the main entrance. Staff closing late at night hear footsteps pacing back and forth, chairs sliding across the floor, and even the sound of faint music, like a ballroom dance from another time. Some have seen a figure in old-fashioned clothing staring out the window at the park below, only for the figure to dissolve into the darkness. Perhaps the most unsettling stories come from employees who work the night shift, long after the guests have gone home. They speak of walking through the empty park, the rides silent, the games closed, only to hear laughter echoing through the air, faint at first, then growing louder as though hundreds of invisible guests are still enjoying the park. Lights turn on by themselves, music plays faintly from old speakers, and in the distance, figures are seen walking the midway, only to vanish into the night. Some believe that the park is cursed, that building on land layered with history, accidents, and restless energy has created a place where spirits can never truly leave. Others think the tragedies that have occurred within the park's walls, from ride accidents to sudden deaths, have tethered souls to the grounds. Paranormal investigators who have explored Kings Island have captured chilling evidence, from ghostly voices caught on recorders to figures captured in photographs standing where no one should be. Despite these terrifying stories, Kings Island remains a beloved attraction, drawing millions of visitors each year. Yet, for those who walk its midway at night, who ride its coasters in the dark, or who find themselves alone in its quiet corners, the laughter of the living often blends with the whispers of the dead. And for those who know the history, every creak, every shadow, every unexplained sound serves as a reminder that not all who enter Kings Island leave when the gates close. Number 10. Cincinnati Music Hall, Cincinnati, Ohio. Cincinnati Music Hall is known as one of the most beautiful buildings in the state, its towering Gothic architecture and red brick facade making it stand out like a cathedral of art and music. Yet behind the grandeur, the chandeliers, the velvet curtains, lies a history soaked in sorrow, in death, in restless spirits that refuse to leave. Many who visit come for opera, for symphonies, for grand performances, but those who work in its shadow know the truth. They know that the music hall is more than a stage, it is a place where the living and the dead move side by side. The land on which it stands is the first key to its haunted nature. Before the music hall was built in 1878, the ground was a burial site, a potter's field where the poor, the unknown, and victims of cholera outbreaks were laid to rest. Thousands of bodies were buried beneath the soil, often without proper care, without proper ceremony, stacked in shallow graves, their identities lost to time. When construction began, workers unearthed skeletons, bones scattered across the earth, reminders that the ground was never empty. And when the music hall rose above that land, many believed the spirits buried beneath were disturbed, angered, trapped beneath the weight of stone and music. From the moment it opened, strange things began to happen. Performers backstage have seen figures in the mirror behind them, reflections of men and women in old-fashioned clothing, only to turn and find no one there. Audience members seated in the grand hall have spoken of cold spots, sudden chills in the air, and the sensation of unseen hands brushing against them. Ushers late at night tell of hearing whispers echoing through the aisles, as though the audience is still there long after the show has ended. The most common apparition is that of a lady in white. She drifts along the balconies, her form faint but glowing, her face blurred yet beautiful, moving with grace as though she is attending a show that never ends. Musicians rehearsing on stage have stopped mid-note, staring as she floats across the empty seats, only for her to vanish in an instant. Some say she was a performer who died tragically, others believe she is one of the many souls buried beneath the hall, forever drawn to the music above her grave. Another chilling spirit is that of a man seen in the basement. He is described as tall, dark-haired, and dressed in clothing from the 19th century. Security guards often hear his footsteps pacing the long corridors, echoing in the silence, only to find the space empty. Some have claimed to see him staring at them from the shadows, his eyes hollow, his expression filled with sadness, before disappearing into the dark. The elevator is another hotspot. Staff members say the lift often stops on its own, doors sliding open to reveal no one inside, or worse, to reveal a sudden burst of cold air, accompanied by a shadow darting across the floor. One cleaning worker claimed that she entered the elevator, pressed for the ground floor, and instead was taken down into the sub-basement where no one is allowed. When the doors opened, she heard faint cries, like children weeping, and she swore she saw skeletons half buried in the dirt before the doors closed again and brought her back up. Paranormal investigators have spent nights inside the music hall, and nearly all of them leave with evidence that chills the blood. Voices have been recorded in empty rooms saying names, calling out in sorrow, crying, and sometimes laughing. Photographs have revealed faces peering from the windows when no one was inside. Instruments have been heard playing themselves, faint notes of a violin drifting through the air long after the musicians have gone home. Many who attend shows never feel the dark presence. The spirits seem to rest while music fills the air, as if they are soothed, as if the performance gives them peace. But when the lights go down, when the audience leaves and the silence falls heavy over the hall, that is when the restless dead stir. When they walk the aisles, when they whisper in the shadows. The Cincinnati Music Hall stands as a jewel of the city, but beneath its beauty lies tragedy, a foundation built on bones, a stage haunted by the past, and a reminder that no matter how much music plays, silence always comes, and in that silence, the dead are waiting. Number 11. Sidamsville Rectory, Cincinnati, Ohio. The Sidamsville Rectory looks like any old brick house from the outside, standing quietly in the neighborhood, its walls worn by time, its windows dark. But this building has a reputation that makes it one of the most terrifying places in Ohio. Built in the late 1800s, it once served as a residence for Catholic priests, a place where faith should have filled the air, where prayers should have brought peace, but instead, it became a house of shadows, of suffering, of secrets that turned into hauntings. Inside these walls, priests lived, ate, prayed, and worked, but history whispers that not all was holy within. Stories say some of the priests who lived there struggled with dark tempers, some even accused of cruelty toward children in the nearby parish school. One priest was said to be violent, his anger so deep that even the house itself seemed to absorb it. Over the years, tales of abuse, pain, and hidden sins grew, and when the rectory was abandoned, it was as if the echoes of those sins remained, twisting the very atmosphere of the place. Those who dare enter today describe a suffocating energy. The air feels thick, heavy, as if the walls themselves are pressing against you. Cold spots appear suddenly and doors slam without cause. The basement is one of the darkest places in the building, and investigators often refuse to go down alone. Voices echo in the shadows, deep growls mixed with faint cries, as if something evil is lurking below. Paranormal teams have reported being scratched, shoved, and even choked while inside. One investigator claimed that while walking down the main hallway, an unseen force pushed him so hard against the wall that he could not breathe, leaving long red marks across his chest. Others have recorded disembodied voices calling their names, threatening them, mocking them. A common voice is that of a man chanting in Latin, his tone harsh, his words chilling even though no one is there. The rectory is also home to a shadow figure that many have seen. It appears as a tall, black silhouette, its form darker than the night around it, its eyes glowing faintly red. It moves quickly, sometimes darting across rooms, sometimes standing in doorways watching. Those who encounter it say the temperature drops instantly, and a sense of pure dread fills their chest, as if they are staring at something inhuman, something that was never a priest, never a man. Children's voices are also heard, faint giggles, whispers, and cries, as though the souls of those once hurt in the church still linger. Some have seen the apparition of a small boy, pale and sad, standing near the staircase, only to vanish when approached. Others say they hear the sound of tiny footsteps running across the wooden floors, but when they look, the hallways are empty. The longer one stays in the rectory, the stronger the activity becomes. Many visitors have described feeling dizzy, sick, as if the house itself is rejecting them. Electronic devices malfunction, cameras shut down, batteries drain instantly, and EVP recorders capture whispers saying "get out" or "he is here." Some even believe that the Sidamsville Rectory is not just haunted by restless spirits, but by something demonic, something dark that feeds on fear. For priests, the rectory was once a place of service. For the people of Cincinnati, it became a place of whispered stories. But for paranormal investigators, it is now one of the most active, most terrifying locations in Ohio. A building where faith was supposed to protect, but where evil seems to have taken root instead. The Sedamsville Rectory stands as a reminder that not all sacred places remain holy, that sometimes the walls themselves hold onto the pain, the violence, the secrets, and those secrets twist into shadows, into hauntings that refuse to let go. Number 12. Prospect Place Mansion, Dresden, Ohio. Prospect Place Mansion is one of the most infamous haunted houses in Ohio, its massive brick walls rising over the quiet town of Dresden, a grand reminder of wealth, history, and the echoes of countless restless souls. Built in the mid-1800s by George Willison Adams, a wealthy abolitionist, this mansion was meant to be a place of family, prosperity, and progress, but behind its elegant exterior lies a darker story, one filled with death, betrayal, and shadows that still wander its halls. During its early years, Prospect Place was a proud station on the Underground Railroad, offering shelter to enslaved people fleeing for their lives. The Adams family risked everything to hide them in secret passages and cellars beneath the house, and though this brought hope for many, it also drew anger and threats from those who supported slavery. Violence, hatred, and fear surrounded the mansion, and many believe the energy of those desperate times seeped into the very foundation of the building. Tragedy soon followed the Adams family. Stories tell of deaths within the mansion, both from illness and accidents. Servants whispered of strange happenings, doors creaking on their own, voices calling from empty rooms, figures drifting through the dark halls at night. But perhaps the most chilling legend is that of a man who was caught trespassing on the property, a horse thief who was dragged into the barn and lynched. His violent death left a stain on the land, and even today visitors report seeing his ghostly figure hanging in the barn, swaying back and forth, a horrific reminder of the past. Inside the mansion, the activity is relentless. People describe hearing heavy boots stomping across the wooden floors, even when no one is there. Lights flicker, cold drafts sweep through sealed rooms, and disembodied voices whisper just out of reach. Some hear children laughing, while others hear them crying. Shadow figures dart across the halls, lingering near the grand staircase, as if watching silently from the darkness. The ballroom is said to be one of the most haunted areas. Guests report the sound of music echoing faintly through the air, violins, and pianos playing as if a ghostly party is still underway. But when they step inside, the room is silent, the air icy cold, the atmosphere heavy. Paranormal investigators have recorded unexplained orbs, moving lights, and voices saying "leave" or "help me." The basement is even more terrifying. Known as the hiding place for escaped slaves, it is filled with the weight of fear, hope, and sorrow. Visitors report feeling overwhelming sadness the moment they step inside, some even bursting into tears without knowing why. Chains and hooks still hang in the cellar, and investigators have captured screams and moans on their recorders, as if the suffering of those who passed through still lingers there. Perhaps the most terrifying encounters come from the apparitions. A woman in a long dress is often seen standing at the top of the stairs, her face pale, her eyes empty, watching silently as people enter. Some say she is the spirit of a former Adams family member, others believe she is tied to one of the many tragedies that took place within. In the barn, the shadow of the lynched man appears often, his presence dark and suffocating, his ghostly figure burned into the memories of those who have seen him. Over the years, Prospect Place has been investigated by countless paranormal teams, and the evidence they gather continues to confirm its haunted reputation. EVPs capturing voices, photographs showing misty figures, unexplained knocks and bangs, and terrifying personal experiences make it one of the most active paranormal hotspots in the state. Prospect Place Mansion is not just a historical landmark, it is a house where the past refuses to stay buried, where suffering, tragedy, and death have left their marks, and where the restless dead continue to roam. For those who visit, it is a chilling reminder that some places hold on to their history so tightly that even in death, the stories still live on. Number 13. The Majestic Theater, Chillicothe, Ohio. The Majestic Theater is more than a century old, a proud structure standing in downtown Chillicothe, but within its walls lies a dark and chilling history that has left behind spirits that refuse to leave. Built in 1853, it is one of the oldest continuously operating theaters in the country, yet instead of only laughter, applause, and music, the building has soaked up fear, tragedy, and death, which many believe still echo through the hallways to this day. During the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, the Majestic Theater became something far more grim than a place of entertainment. The massive outbreak killed thousands across Ohio, and the theater was converted into a makeshift morgue and autopsy center. Rows of bodies were laid across the stage where actors once performed, the laughter of audiences replaced by silence and grief. Blood from the countless autopsies is said to have been drained into the alley behind the building, staining the earth and creating an energy so disturbing that many say it cursed the site forever. Visitors to the majestic theater often report feeling sudden cold spots, even in the middle of the summer. Some hear the sound of footsteps echoing across the stage when no one is there, while others describe whispers in the dressing rooms, voices calling out their names. Shadows have been seen flitting along the balcony seats, as though ghostly audience members still gather, waiting for a performance that will never come. One of the most terrifying legends involves the spirits of the pandemic victims. People describe seeing pale faces staring at them from the darkness, fleeting figures dressed in early 1900s clothing, and in some cases the strong smell of antiseptic, the same chemicals once used during the autopsies. Some investigators believe that the trauma of so many deaths at once left a permanent mark, a spiritual scar that bleeds into the present. But the paranormal stories do not stop there. Staff and performers have spoken of doors opening and slamming shut on their own, lights flickering violently during rehearsals, and eerie moans rising from the stage at night. In the basement, people report the sense of being watched, of someone following just a few steps behind them, yet when they turn, the hallway is empty. Others claim to feel sudden waves of dread, as though an invisible force is pressing down on their chest, making it hard to breathe. The Majestic Theater has become a favorite spot for paranormal investigators, who have captured countless EVPs, unexplained shadows, and even ghostly images on camera. Some recordings feature voices saying "Get out" or "Help me," while others capture eerie laughter, the sound of clapping, and even the faint notes of music when no instruments are being played. For Chillicothe locals, the Majestic is both a cherished landmark and a place of fear. Its grand stage may still host performances, but the lingering energy of death and sorrow reminds everyone that the theater is more than entertainment. It is a place where the boundary between the living and the dead grows thin, where restless souls still wander the aisles, and where history refuses to be forgotten. Number 14. The Twin City Opera House, McConnellsville, Ohio. The Twin City Opera House is a beautiful building on the outside, a piece of Ohio's cultural history, but within its walls hides a darkness that has terrified locals and visitors for generations. Built in 1892, it has served as a stage for performances, community gatherings, and shows, yet many say it has also been a stage for something far more sinister, a place where spirits gather and refuse to leave. The theater is famous for its ghostly reputation, and people who step inside often say they feel it immediately. The air grows heavier, colder, and filled with the sense of being watched, as though invisible eyes are following your every move. From the stage to the balcony, to the narrow winding staircases and the shadowed basement, every corner of the opera house seems alive with something unseen. One of the most terrifying stories tied to the opera house is that of a spirit known simply as Red Wine Bob. Bob was a man who spent much of his time in the building, often drinking heavily. He eventually died there, and locals believe his spirit never left. People say he still makes himself known by the strong scent of red wine drifting through empty rooms, even when no bottle is present. Some have even claimed to see a hazy figure of a man leaning against the wall, only for him to vanish when approached. But Bob is not alone. Countless visitors have reported shadow figures darting through the auditorium, chairs creaking as though unseen guests are sitting down, and footsteps moving across the stage when it is empty. Performers rehearsing have heard faint applause, whispers, and sometimes their own names being called out in voices they do not recognize. In the dressing rooms, women claim to feel cold hands brush against their arms or hair, while mirrors sometimes seem to ripple or distort their reflection, as if another face is trying to peer through from the other side. The basement is perhaps the most unsettling part of the opera house. Dark and narrow, it was once used as a jail for prisoners, and many believe that the energy of suffering remains trapped there. Investigators have captured chilling EVPs, including screams, cries for help, and the sound of heavy chains being dragged across the floor. Some visitors say they feel overwhelming dread as they descend the steps, while others leave shaking, convinced that something down there does not want them to return. The Opera House has become one of Ohio's most active paranormal hotspots. Ghost hunters regularly flock to McConnellsville, armed with cameras, recorders, and infrared equipment, and they rarely leave disappointed. Strange lights, unexplained bangs, and moving shadows are captured frequently, making the Twin City Opera House not just a local legend but a nationally recognized haunted site. For the people of McConnellsville, the Opera House is a source of pride, history, and fear. Its stage may still host performances, but it is also a stage for the dead, where lost souls linger and unseen forces roam. To this day, many visitors leave with the same chilling feeling that someone is still sitting in the darkness of the balcony, watching every move, waiting for the curtain to rise again. Number 15. The Civic Theater, Akron, Ohio. The Civic Theater in Akron is one of the most stunning architectural treasures in the state of Ohio, but behind its beauty lies a reputation for being one of the most haunted places in the region. Built in 1929, the theater was designed in a grand atmospheric style meant to transport visitors into another world, with a ceiling that mimics a starry night sky and intricate details throughout. Yet for all its elegance, many believe that the Civic is also home to something otherworldly, shadows and spirits that refuse to leave the stage and the seats behind. From the moment people walk through its doors, they say they feel it, that unmistakable sensation of not being alone. Ushers, staff, and performers have long whispered stories of footsteps echoing through empty hallways, doors that open and close without cause, and sudden drops in temperature that chill the skin to the bone. Even when the theater is quiet and empty, it feels alive, as if the walls themselves remember everything that has happened there, every performance, every laughter, every tragedy. Among the spirits most often reported is that of a woman said to wander the balconies. Patrons have described seeing her in period clothing, seated alone in the dark, only to vanish when someone approaches. Others have heard her laughter echoing faintly, delicate and eerie, drifting from the upper levels even when no one is there. Some say she was a woman who adored the theater so much in life that she never left, while others believe she is tied to a darker history, perhaps connected to one of the many urban legends surrounding tragic deaths in the building. The stage itself is a focal point of activity. Actors rehearsing late into the night have reported feeling watched from the wings, their nerves tightening as shadows shift in the corners of their vision. Some describe hearing whispered lines spoken back to them, as though the ghosts of past performers are still trying to join in, still trying to claim their moment under the lights. Curtains rustle when the air is still, props go missing only to reappear in strange places, and spotlights sometimes move on their own, sweeping across the stage as if guided by invisible hands. One of the most unsettling areas is the backstage tunnels and dressing rooms. Cold winds drift through sealed spaces, and mirrors have been said to cloud mysteriously, showing faint outlines of faces that do not belong to anyone living. Performers tell of a heavy presence, a pressure on the chest that grows stronger the longer you linger. Some even refuse to be alone back there, convinced that something unseen is watching from the shadows. Ghost hunters and paranormal investigators have flocked to the Civic Theater for years, and many of them leave with chilling evidence. Recordings have captured whispers, distant singing, and even what sounds like applause in empty auditoriums. Strange orbs and figures appear on cameras, and electromagnetic spikes occur in areas where no electrical sources should be present. The people of Akron hold the Civic Theater in great pride, a place of beauty and art, but its reputation for hauntings is just as strong as its cultural significance. It remains a place where audiences gather for entertainment, but also where unseen audiences may be gathering too, spirits that remain bound to the building, forever lingering in the balconies, the seats, and the stage. Visitors leave impressed, sometimes thrilled, but often uneasy, with the chilling thought that some of the spectators at the Civic Theater are not among the living at all. So there you have it, 15 of the most haunted, most chilling, and most unforgettable places in all of Ohio. Each story leaves behind an echo, each place carries a shadow, and each haunting reminds us that the line between the living and the dead is far thinner than we like to admit. From prisons filled with restless spirits, to theaters that will not let their performers leave, to hotels and mansions where footsteps never stop echoing, Ohio is a state built not only on history, but also on mystery. And for those brave enough to walk these halls, cross these bridges, or sit in these haunted theaters, the truth is always the same: you will feel something, you will sense something, and you may even take a piece of it home with you. Think about it, maybe one day you'll step inside one of these places, maybe you'll sit in the Ohio State Reformatory and feel the icy breath of someone who never made it out, Maybe you'll walk through the tunnels of the ridges and hear whispers that no one living should ever hear. Maybe you'll sit in the Golden Lamb Inn and feel the bed sink beside you as though someone invisible has joined you. Or maybe you'll find yourself on a stage in the Civic Theater, waiting in the darkness, only to realize you're not the one being watched, you're the one being watched by them. And the question always lingers, are these ghosts truly trapped, or are they choosing to stay watching us, learning us, whispering into the world of the living? Maybe they want to be remembered, maybe they want to be feared, maybe they want us to know that death is not the end, that something always lingers, that something always waits. And if that's true, then every shadow could be more than just the dark, every sound could be more than just the wind, every reflection could be more than just you. So, if you ever find yourself in Ohio, take a walk down Summit Avenue in St. Paul's sister city, or lose yourself inside a haunted asylum in Athens, or drive through the winding roads where headlights vanish into the night. Ask yourself if you're ready to see what others have seen, if you're ready to feel what others have felt. And if you go, do not go alone, do not go without respect, because once the spirits find you, once they know your name, once they know you believe, they may never let you go. Now, if you made it this far, you are exactly the kind of person who belongs here with us, exploring haunted stories, uncovering secrets, and daring to look into the shadows most people turn away from. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now, because there are so many more haunted stories waiting, and I promise you the next ones will be even darker, even stranger, and even scarier. Don't just stop here, because the haunted roads and haunted halls of America stretch far and wide, and Ohio is only one chapter in a much bigger story. Share this video with your friends, your family, anyone who dares to listen in the dead of night, and watch it together with the lights off, because horror is always better when it's shared. Leave a comment if you've been to any of these haunted places, if you've seen or heard something you cannot explain, because your story might be the one that keeps someone else awake tonight. And remember, every like, every share, every subscription, it doesn't just help me, it helps keep these stories alive, it makes sure the spirits are never forgotten, and it ensures that the hauntings live on. So go ahead, subscribe, share, and prepare, because the shadows will always be waiting, and the next story is already closer than you think. Because in the end, the question isn't whether ghosts are real, the question is whether you're ready to believe, whether you're ready to face the darkness, whether you're ready to walk through the doors and never look back. And the truth is, some doors once opened can never be closed again. Now I'll leave you with this. Tonight, when the lights are off, when the house is quiet, when you feel that strange shift in the air and hear a whisper you cannot explain, just remember, Ohio's ghosts are not so far away. And maybe, just maybe, one of them is already here, listening, watching, waiting. So subscribe now, share this with the bravest souls you know, and I'll see you in the next story if you make it there.